And as I think back, that day still lives with me vividly, just like it was yesterday. And that was August 10th, 1984. That was the day I arrived in America. My mother and I landed in San Francisco International Airport on a Pan Am. Those of you old enough to remember that airlines. So it was a bright and sunny day in August. My father was waiting for us at the airport, and that was the first time I saw him in 5 years. So you can imagine that was quite an occasion. He left China when I was 10 years old, back in 1979. So it was a very big reunion. And later that day, he took us to this house, this big house in the middle of Mission District in San Francisco. Those of you familiar with San Francisco, I think is a Hispanic neighborhood, and is what they call the barrio, the low-income area. So this house was owned by this lady by the name of Vera Mariani. She was born in 1899, and she was already 85 years old at the time. So she owned this big Victorian house right in the middle of this almost a ghetto. And the downstairs used to be this big old hardware store that the Mariani family operated for many years. And the Marianis were immigrants to America during the gold rush in the mid-1800s. And so they purchased this house in the Mission District, and they had 6 kids, and both parents from Switzerland, and they really consider themselves Italians because they were from the Italian region of Switzerland. So I moved in this house, my family moved in this house with her, and I remember Vera gave me a big hug when she first saw me. She was this chubby, this little lady full of energy with red hair. The photo you see there on the top left corner, that was dated in 1913, and the color was added later on. Also, I want to point out today, April 13th, happens to be her birthday, and it's a complete coincidence. So she would have been 119 years old today. So it's a very special day. The bottom picture is my parents and Vera. That picture was taken in 1991, and the top right corner was me and Vera sitting in our living room. I remember our first meal in America. It was very interesting because she has prepared this elaborate meal for us. She was so excited, and she brought this big tray of meat and put it right in the middle of the table. And I've never seen so much meat before in my life, because in China, that's got to be worth about 2 months of our family's meat ration. So I was very excited. I took 2 big slices to my plate, and I was so excited, but I didn't really know how to use Western utensils. I kind of had to imitate my dad by holding the fork with one hand upside down, and the knife on the other hand, and I managed to get a piece in my mouth, and I started tasting it. Then next thing I knew, this thing has no taste. This wonderful meat has no taste. So it really needed some soy sauce. I felt like asking, but I didn't have the guts to do it. So I managed to eat the whole thing anyway. It was a wonderful meal. And later on that evening, probably around 8:30 or so, but before the sun was going to set, we all sat around the living room. And Vera walked up to this double French door that opened up to this beautiful rooftop garden. And she opened up the door and hollered out something in English. I had no clue what she was saying. I didn't understand a word of it. Then a few seconds later, 2 cats came in, a beautiful Siamese cat and a yellow cat. And she shut the door behind them. And I stood there. I was so amazed. My gosh, these American cats understand English. They understand more English than I do. So that was our first day in America. There's so many details that I can still remember, but I don't have that much time. Those early years in America was most difficult time for my family, because my father, who received his master's degree in Russian literature of all majors from San Francisco State University, couldn't get a job for the longest time. He knocked on a lot of doors in Stanford University, Berkeley, but nobody's going to about to hire a Chinese guy as a Russian linguist. So it wasn't until 1989 that he landed his job as a Chinese language instructor in Monterey. That was 2 hours south of San Francisco. And my mother, who came to America when she was 51 years old, had to switch her career all over again. And she didn't have the English or the vocational skill to be employable here in America, so she had to go back to school to become a nurse assistant so she could take care of elderlies at a local hospital. So time was very difficult for my family. We had to go clean houses on weekends to make ends meet. And we were so fortunate because Vera Mariani took us, a Chinese family, brought her in to her house, and we stayed with her for 6 years. We were able to save our money and purchase our first home in San Francisco. So today, as I look back 33 years later, or a third of a century later, I look back at that stage of my life, it left an indelible mark on me. I'm so fortunate today that I'm part of Tacoma Community House. It's an organization that helps new immigrants and make them feel welcomed. So I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for listening to me and allow me to commemorate this special occasion, Vera Mariani's birthday. And thank you so much for your contribution to TCH. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. I've heard that story before, and it's a wonderful story, no matter how many times I hear it. I want to thank you all again for being here today and for making Tacoma and Pierce County and the South Sound a welcoming place. We are very grateful to be able to do this important work in this community with all of you. We've been a welcoming home for immigrants and refugees for the past 108 years, and I'm here to tell you today we are building a new home, and we're so excited about it. You can see the picture on the screens. This will be our new home in the same location where we've been for the last 108 years. We need more classrooms. We need private interviewing space. We need study spaces for our students. We need community gathering places. And you can see in these drawings that our beautiful new home will almost double the space we have now and allow us to provide all those things and to have a welcoming home truly. We have quietly raised $8 million towards our $13 million goal. Yay! Yes, that's worth applause. And we hope to break ground this summer, so we're getting very close. The funding thus far has come from $2.5 million in the Washington State capital budget. Thank you, legislators, for your support. $1 million from the Gates Foundation. Oh, yes, sure. $500,000 from the Employees Community Fund of Boeing. Thank you, Boeing employees. Support from United Methodist Women and Whitney Memorial United Methodist Church, from businesses, and gifts large and small from many, many individuals in this community, including many of you in this room. And for that, we are truly grateful. So thank you. Now, for those of you who haven't contributed, you will have an opportunity. So we will be in touch with you over the next several months to share more about the campaign, and I hope that you will consider supporting us as we can build a new, more welcoming home for all of us in this community. So thank you again, and I want to thank Simney Kim, if she would come up on the stage once more, for sharing her story. Thank you.